Media contracts and all these different things, TV contracts, media deals, different things like that have been a topic of conversation regarding the SWAC, mainly centered around football over the last couple of days, maybe the last couple of weeks. And one question that was asked is why don't the SWAC have their own network, the SWAC Network? And I'm thinking like, that's a good question. Let's talk about it because it is a good question. And does it make sense to have a SWAC network or to do a different approach? Let's talk about it after the bump. My people, what is good? Good people. My name is JeffLightsyJr. This is the Victory Formation Sports Show right here on JeffLightsYJr, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button as you come in, because today it won't be a long show, but we'll be talking about contracts, media deals, and whether or not the SWAC should have their own SWAC network with a website and headquarters and all that good stuff. And so, obviously, I've talked about it on this show. Scotty broke the news on the contract between the SWAC and ESPN. It ain't that good. It ain't that good at all. It was a contract that was essentially paying them between 400,000 and 475,000, and then it bumped up to 760,000 over the last 2 years, simply with the addition of Deion Sanders and whatnot. And then you got a lot of people that came out and said the SWAC should have their own network. Doesn't make sense for the SWAC not to have their own network with a website and all kinds of classic things. And it's a good suggestion. What I will say to combat that suggestion, this is the way to look at two sides of the same coin, because there's multiple ways to skin a cat. So they're like, so what is your reasoning? What I would ask is, what is your reasoning? This is just really a question for the SWAC to have their own network. It's like, because they could get bigger deals. They could charge people X amount of dollars. They can show old classic SWAC games. Somebody posted where the NFL Network was showed a game in February, a SWAC game, February 2023, of like some old big time SWAC teams, big time coaches, big time players, etc., etc. So that's a brilliant idea. It's a good idea. They'd be able to do X, Y, and Z, right? And those are all fair points. But at the same time, you have to think, are the SWAC supporters, alumni, etc., are they going to be willing to pay that monthly fee to get that access that you're wanting? Now, that only you at home have your own opinion. That's just one thing to consider. Another thing to consider is, does the SWAC have the infrastructure to run their own network? Now, it's one thing to run a conference as far as athletics. The Southwestern Athletic Conference focuses on athletics. It's a whole other thing to jump into this media thing, to run a whole media network, to run a whole media company. And that is why even the big boys, the SEC network, the Big Ten network, it's not the athletic directors and the people in the conference sports side of things running those things. They're not. They're not. They have totally separate parent companies. And those conferences, the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, they don't even own their own network. Yes, there is an SEC network. Yes, there is a Big Ten network. But they're not ran or owned by the Big Ten. Don't believe me? Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the biggest of big dogs, the SEC. Just go Google the SEC network. As you see, I did this just simple Google search. But if you look over here, it says it was founded in 2014. Owner, ESPN, the Walt Disney Company. 80% Disney, 20% Hearst Communications. You know what Disney is? It's a media brand. It's a media entity. They own the SEC network. Not the however many, I don't know, SEC keeps expanding. Not the 14 schools or whatever they have. Disney owns it. Disney's a cable company. Disney is someone with the infrastructure to run a network, whether it's linear or digital. They have the infrastructure. Same with Hearst Communications. So it's not the SEC and their presidents and their ADs and their commissioners running the SEC network. Yeah, they have large influence on what goes on the SEC network. That's what all the contract negotiation things are for. But the presidents and commissioners, they don't run this. Disney does. ESPN does. Let's go to the Big Ten, the second biggest of big dogs. Once again, quick Google search of the Big Ten network. And if you zoom in, headquarters, Chicago, parent companies, Fox Corporation, Fox Sports. This is who owns the Big Ten network. Fox Sports does. They run it. Once again, another entity with the framework and the capability and the infrastructure to run a digital and or linear network, not 12 presidents and a commissioner. Do we understand what I'm saying? Am I making sense with what I'm saying? It's not criminal to not own a network, as long as you have a place where you can distribute your games and your product and you get paid for it. Paid what you're able to negotiate, by the way. One last one. Let's go to the ACC. Once again, the ACC network. Quick Google search. This is, Google's powerful. Headquarters, Bristol, Connecticut. Owner, ESPN, Walt Disney. It's not rocket science, guys. It's okay to not own your own network. It's okay. It's not criminal, and it's not abnormal. It's not criminal. It's not abnormal. Actually, the biggest of big dogs do it. They allow someone else with media savvy, with the infrastructure to carry and broadcast games, to do this thing. And so the SWAC is doing the same thing. They're literally doing the exact same thing as the ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC. Just instead of ESPN, they have HBCU Go. The ESPN pays a lot of money to those conferences to do just that, to own the network and to broadcast their games. HBCU Go's paying a lot of money to own their own network. It's not called the SWAC Network. It's just called HBCU Go. And to broadcast their games. And when I say a lot of money, he's like, oh, Jeff, it's just $12 million. Yeah, it's $12 million to the $400,000 you were getting in 2019. It's $12 million for a secondary deal compared to the $400,000 you were getting per year for your primary exclusive deal back in 2014. I mean, back in 2019, rather. 2019. Just what? 4 short years ago. So in 4 years, you went from a primary exclusive a deal with ESPN that only paid you $400,000 to 3 years later, technically, because they signed a deal in 22, a secondary deal worth $12 million per year. And instead of it being called, would it make folks feel better if it was called the SWAC Network and not HBCU Go? Same thing. Go to the website. It's owned by Byron Allen and AMG. And they broadcast SWAC games. They put up SWAC content. They have a studio, and they're a media company. Not 12 athletic directors and a commissioner trying to become a media company. No, they're actually a media company with several different media outlets. The Weather Channel, the Griot, Sports.tv, and all of those different programs, all of those different outlets broadcast SWAC games. You can watch SWAC games on the Griot, just like you can watch it on HBCU Go. Just like you can watch it on, he's got a bunch of channels, but there's other channels that you can watch SWAC games on and other different apps or whatever, different outlets. If you're getting compensated for your work, man, that's all that matters. That's what matters the most. And yeah, you could have a SWAC network and say that draws in, let's just use $400,000 a year, but you'd be sacrificing $12 million a year just because you want to own your own, when even the biggest of big dogs don't own their own network. ESPN and Fox do. something to think about. Not telling you you're wrong for wanting it. It's just something to think about. The infrastructure has to be there, and you got to get compensated. That's what matters the most. Now, we talked about this in one of my other videos, one of my last videos. Yeah, you want to see HBCU go to continue to expand, but this was their inaugural season. They just started, and you saw the quality of content that they put out when it came to broadcasting the games. It was damn sure better than what you saw on ESPN+. Now, what needs to happen at all 12 SWAC institutions and the 8 MEAC institutions as well, if we want to just throw them in there, they need to upgrade their infrastructure. I saw Jackson State hired ASVP Visuals, Austin, as their creative director. Every single school in the SWAC and the MEAC needs their version of an Austin on campus. Some of them already have it, but every single one needs a version of ASVP Visuals on their campus. So you got to get a creative director. You got to upgrade your equipment. Spend some of that money that you're getting from HBCU Go or whoever to upgrade your studio equipment, your equipment that shoot games. So when Go isn't at your game and you are broadcasted on ESPN+, you have the adequate equipment to broadcast a 4K HD game. Because we saw, like, even when Jackson State was on campus with Deion Sanders, we saw the quality of some of those games. It was horrible. Sound, it looked like 1993 VCR messed up tapes. So everybody must pour back into their own infrastructure and make sure it's quality and it's up to the standard that it should be. And then we'll continue to see this ball rolling and deals, bigger and better deals coming to each and every school. That's just my 2 cents. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Once again, my name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. This is the Victory Formation Sports Show right here on Jeff Lightsy Jr. YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button before you get out of here. Also, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at JLightsy7. That is on Twitter and Instagram at